application pretty close to our favorites. So. So you have 20.
Yes, they can come up with 120%. That's not good. Should we flip those things?
Yes. It's 6 o'clock, I'll call the order.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're always so prompt. Makes those last couple minutes, you don't have to wait, but Mr. Ryan Jones on. Okay. We'll get started. We do have a guest speaker. Welcome, Michael Smith. We would love to get to know you better, and certainly council, can make arrangements to meet you. We've gotten a chance to dialogue a little bit. I got to be a part of the selection process for the candidates that went forward to the board, so I had the pleasure of talking to you, but welcome. We're a very approachable council. We don't have any weird bad blood going on between any of us, so we love to, hear your ideas about the future for the National Eagle Center. We've been along for this partnership and the bonding initiative, and I alluded to that in the interviews with you, so you knew what we're dealing with. We're really lucky to have a good, long-standing. Dean, how many years have you been on council? Dean, have you been over 25 years on council?
Something like that.
Yeah, and John? Many, so there's a lot of institutional memory here. Certainly much of it before my time in terms of the development of the Eagle Center, and John served the board for a long time, I served for a little bit. And then people are really engaged in the community broadly, so just wanted to welcome you here to share with us, anything you want to share about who you are and how it's been getting started.
Well, I mean, it's number one, it was a fantastic process and working with everybody, Emily and the key people there. I enjoyed the process. I felt it was informative and very smooth, went well, organized. So on board day 7, getting busy in the first few days, I'll tell you that. What I've been doing is re-looking the entire donation program right now. That's critical. I'm basically just looking at it and saying, okay, team, we've got to come up with a plan here, how we're going to proceed. So we're just going to focus heavily in corporate contributions, private contributions. More of a consistent approach to the foundation grants, and then of course we're going to dissect the whole membership and adoption thing. One's kind of overpowering the other right now, so we're going to figure that out. And spending time on the phone with the accounting group to better understand the way they're doing business and operating. So I tell you, in the course of 7 days, I've flipped a lot of stones already.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I haven't had a tremendous amount of time to get in, and I know it's a priority, to get into the construction project that's going on. I mean, I've gotten a bit of a summary on it, but I have not had a chance to look at the plans and what's going to take place there. I know there's a lot of tuck pointing that's occurring with those buildings to shore them up, which is obviously needed. And I know they're gonna focus on the auditorium area in there in particular. But in the next few days, and that will be back to, I've had some people out on vacation, I will go ahead and get a pretty good rundown and understanding of the scope of the project. I just,
You're brand new, yeah.
So many days that make you an X amount of time,
Right,
so.
Carolyn and I have been on that committee as well, so if we can be of any help, I think your team obviously knows
Yeah.
exactly what the plan is going forward.
Yeah, I think they sound like they're well informed on it, I just haven't had the opportunity, so.
Michael, can you share a bit about where you came from?
Yeah, my background is hotels, restaurants. I worked for Gus Shifoli, as some of you might know Gus. I worked for Gus for 27 years in Rochester. It was an absolute pleasure to be with him. Sorely missed, you know. Just a very personable individual, and quite frankly, he knew how to run a business and knew how to get results. And he and I hit it off well and had a great run of it. I worked for the Kaler Corporation, was the lucky one to take it through the COVID phase and renovated every guest room and corridor in the Kaler and in the towers, which is their upscale accommodations. So we did not do public space, it was just limited to the guest floors. But that was over 600 rooms, that was a big project. So I've had my hand in renovations quite a bit. Outside of that, I've done some work in food service, some work in healthcare, and graduated from UW Stout back many moons ago. So, I mean, that's kind of my background. Spent most of my time Chicago, Minneapolis, and then the balance of it in Rochester since 1990. So quite a few years.
Yeah, it's great to see you as what we think of as a local candidate, because it's a big deal to get people to move here and find housing, et cetera. So
Yeah.
it was excellent that you could.
Yeah, and I'm currently living in Byron, but we've got a unique situation. We've got aging parents. My dad is gonna be 99 in July. He just stopped driving the other day, so that was a hard pill for him to swallow. And my wife's mother is approaching 90 herself, so we've got a little bit of support to give here for a while, and that's gonna keep us kind of operating between La Crosse and Rochester. I found out it's about one and the same on the drive, so, yeah.
Yeah,
Any
and I
questions?
introduced you to Chris,
Yes.
just so you know, we are, Tony in the blue city shirt is our public works director, he's been here
Nice to
for
meet you.
over 16 years. Officer Jacobs is on our police force, Tyler in the red and white and black is our finance director. And if just council wants to, you know.
Yeah, I'm John Friedmeier.
Okay.
Yeah, so Brian Woodley.
You know Carolyn?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I am Jessica Burrs, deputy clerk in the office.
Tim Wahlberg.
Nice to meet you.
Jim Jensen.
And Dean Warner, nice to meet you. You too.
Great to have you.
Yeah, any questions I can answer for anybody?
Well, I think we'll move that agenda item up so that you can be here for that if there are any. I think it's
Sure.
been a while since we looked at some of these agreement terms.
Mhm.
All right, call for any public comments. Is there anybody online besides Ryan?
Somebody but muted.
Okay, so if you'd like to make public comments, you can certainly do that in council chambers at any one of our meetings, but if you're online and you've never done so before, you just unmute yourself. It's in a little microphone on the lower left of the Zoom app, and state your name and residence for the record and share a couple minutes with council. Just here to listen, that's fine too. All right, hearing no public comment, are there changes or additions to the agenda? I think you have a couple changes.
Yep, I would just like to remove the on-site computer servers quote out of the consent and put it at the end. And also I added, a resolution, so I have it in 12-2026, and I'd like to move that after the approval of the Eagle Center budget, so we can take care of his items rather quickly.
Any other changes by council staff? Hearing none. My presentation is to wish Caroline happy 5 years. And I thought it was so sneaky, hiding a little present for her under the podium, and then I realized she had to go to the remote and probably saw it.
No, I didn't see it.
Okay. It's crazy that it's been 5 years. I texted Wendy a few months back and I said, is it really 5 years already? I mean, I remember she was a hire during COVID. And she said it's 5 years, so, so obviously we've had a great 5 years with you. It's been incredible that it's only been that many years and so much has been accomplished. It feels both really long and really short, but you know, there's so many qualities that we all appreciate in you, Caroline. I just jotted down a few so I wouldn't ramble on and on. But you were immediately a standout in the candidate pool. I remember Wendy saying, I like this one the best. And you were just as you are on the page, very strategic, very sincere, very dedicated. I enjoy working with you because I get to see the other side of your life where you're dedicated to your family and your network of other professionals that we never have the pleasure of meeting, but you bring so much good knowledge from that group. You're an excellent communicator. We really have done, you with staff have done an excellent job with our web presence, all the mailed ways that people connect with the city, and your willingness to speak to the public can be unrewarding sometimes, but I appreciate you doing that because I know it's very valuable. You're fun, you're thoughtful, you're always optimistic. Millions of dollars obviously have been secured with your leadership, and that is not a given. It's not like those millions of dollars are gonna come in without you. You've been a huge part of that. And now with the team, you know, stewarding that and administering those grants is a very big lift, and we're so glad that we have professional staff here to help you to do that good work. I poked a few people that was just really appreciative of the way that you elevate the library and all the publications and the reports that you put out, and your willingness to work with that discussion group that often feels like they need to hear directly from the city about issues. And Wendy said a lot of things that I think we all feel. She said, I'd like to express my appreciation and gratitude to having such a present and active superior in our workforce. Caroline's positive energy reminds us daily of the reason that we all come to work, and that's to put the city of Wabasha's best interest first. In the last 5 years, she's been a main component to projects getting off the ground, HVAC grants, housing, reuse, city property, highway rerouting, barge terminal, fire department expansion, multiple funding grant opportunities, partnerships, and many more things I'm sure I'm forgetting. So thanks to staff for helping with that, and here's your little secret present that I put underneath the podium. Because you're also so delightful, because you're so proud of Wabasha, and that really means a lot to those of us who also are proud of Wabasha. I'm excited for all the things that we're getting to do together with you. So thanks for the 5 years.
Yes, I'm surprised. I was not expecting it. So, but yeah, it's been fun. It's been hard at times, but I have never looked back, and particularly everyone in this room makes it fun. And yeah, we've got just a great team, but I get along with everyone and admire all the council members and the mayor, and so I feel lucky, and yeah.
So do we.
Yeah, so thank you so much, and
I would like to say something.
Please do.
okay.
When I first met Caroline, I told her that as administrator, her time is very precious. And I don't want to be up here bugging her when she has work to do. And the only time she would see me up here, most likely is if something was terribly wrong or something like that. I'm glad to announce that I have not come up once to meet with her on that, for that reason. So that tells you something right there, so.
Definitely. One of the things I feel about Caroline is when someone is frustrated or angry or worse, you know, misinformed sometimes, that I can always send them to city hall staff and they will be treated with respect and they will be well informed and processfully explained, and so we appreciate that from all of you. Anybody else?
I have a big long list, but some of you kind of. But I will say this, I've had the good fortune to work with Caroline outside of here, like going to the Capitol and going on different things, and we can be proud that she's representing us up there. And at our port association meetings and everything else, she speaks well of our community and she's informed, and it shows. So, and Yeah, her networking abilities is way better than mine.
I was gonna say, she
I'll
was
say that.
hustling like a full-time professional lobbyist the last visit to the Capitol, so.
It was amazing. We've been on the port things and she nails these other legislators like, I just take it off, it's pretty good. So well done, and just really appreciate all the effort,
Very much.
very creative and just. I think we should keep her.
I think so.
Okay.
I think your trial period was over on day one.
Yeah.
All right, committee updates, utilities,
Nothing more, no.
Board Authority.
4:30 met, third Tuesday of the month. Just general business, spending more money on both the barge terminal engineering as well as, Highway 60 reroute. You'll see in front of us today, the, housing trust fund, that ordinance. Other thing we did is we granted the first application for a residential infill project, another project that Caroline spearheaded. So it's gonna be a duplex, and they're utilizing the funds that we were granted to the state. So I think that's about it.
Parks and Streets.
Good evening, everyone. Streets Commission did not meet. Pool, or Park Board met, and we talked about the pool, chemical controller and approved that, to come tonight to the city council. And then, we talked about turn limits and then the Brava swing installation and that whole thing that's on the agenda tonight too. So that was it, short meeting.
And planning.
We did not meet.
Any other news from the community, any other meetings that anybody attended? You're gonna talk about our Capitol, is it?
You can talk about
Okay,
it.
well, it was an interesting time at the Capitol. We had a kind of impromptu meeting that we tried to have scheduled, but with Kim Allendorf, who wasn't necessarily ready to prepared to say that she would support bonding if our project was in the bill, so that was frustrating. Otherwise, we had good and consistent, I think, coaching from other legislators that is really key. And Senator Yaskowski and his legislative staff, Margaret, were very good to help us kind of figure out how do we get on. What I assume is essentially an Excel list of projects that meet the criteria for bonding, and assuming there's a bonding bill, they want those eligible projects in there. Obviously, they want basic infrastructure, which they see this project as, and I thought that was a productive meeting.
Yes.
And for the first time, at least I've never stayed, we stayed for dinner, which is nice. It's another chance to kind of grab a couple other legislators, which Caroline did very effectively. But it gets to be a late night, so it was a very long day. We left at about 10 to 7 and didn't get home till after 10. And Caroline had to drive
Yeah.
home yet, so
Yeah.
long day.
The other thing we learned about was there was some pending legislation that would kind of remove local control of over approving new housing. So for example, if somebody approved to, build an apartment building, it would just not even go through a public comment process, which we all don't feel is
Helps rural communities.
helpful, and so we also spoke with our legislatures about saying no to that legislation to just keep local control, allow public comment, which I think is effective and helpful at times. So it was also interesting just learning about legislation that may impact us, and then it's helpful for us to know, okay, we better respond on that. And we also we sat in a committee because we had time, and even then, we were like, it was a proposal that we all found kind of interesting to hear the debate, so it was a great visit.
Yeah, and I formally wrote a letter in opposition of that housing bill last year, but I guess maybe I should do that again this year.
I also wrote.
Okay.
a letter this year.
Yeah, it creates a lot of constraints without any tools that make housing easier to develop in rural communities, so.
But at least as it was written, it only applied, we were excluded at our.
Most of the
conservation
provisions were
level, it was
excluded.
like the 5,000.
Right, cities under 5,000, but we still advocate against it for other cities, because there was consensus in the kind of the breakfast area that nobody found it to be useful. Everybody, what was cool to hear is lots of communities are doing lots of creative things to create housing. None of it was, related to what this bill tries to do. So.
And we got to meet, the representative who's probably running for Steve Draskowski's, and we'd like to invite him to visit the ambulance station and hear about our building needs. So I think that was useful.
Definitely, yeah. And your report. which you gave us.
I guess I'll just add that on the barge terminal, that great news is out for bid and due April 18th. And the Port Authority plans to close on the Conner property that we're acquiring to build the barge terminal April 30th. And, we just learned that our Muscle relocation was approved. And we also met with the Conners on the construction easement needed to be in place for the project to begin. So just glad that that's moving forward. We are waiting on signatures, but we have grant agreements. We had the groundbreaking on the apartment building, which we have just a website update on that. And I also, thought that the library mural project was really neat, so I've submitted it for an award for a small city project that was 100% funded through grants and donations and.
Yeah, if you haven't been in, it's
Yeah.
really beautiful. Now that it's complete, you can see how Sue's original composition was meant to be totally inclusive.
And then, yeah, me and Chris are both excited about this duplex. Really, we're waiting on the state for our final grant agreement. But just to explain that, we were awarded tier 2 housing funds. And so once the grant's in the place, we're gonna launch, we have 5 units available for anyone that wants to build market rate, workforce rental, duplex or single family, or a single family home, and that would have to be for somebody earning 120% of the area median income or below, which is 130,000 or less. So we're gonna be talking about those definitions later. So thus far, I think we've had interest in, again, people wanting to maybe build a small starter home for people in the community. But we just are not broadly advertising that yet because we can't officially start due to needing a grant agreement from the state. But somebody was ready to go, and so they're gonna build a duplex across from our Milligan Street lot. So, yeah.
That was a part of the port's last packet, if you want to look at that.
Was the Muslim relocation?
Right. On our consent agenda, we have the server taken off resolution 0/2026 vacating the trustee properties, flooring in the ambulance garage. The April warrants are for the Fall Fest and gambling application for their golf tournament. New beach park drinking fountain, which is paid by Ship. Pool automated chemical feed system, J&M displays for the fireworks invoice, plow truck carbide cutting edges, and approved the updated city Wabasha purchasing policy, which was amended last in 2023, and the resolution 10/2026 approving the transfer of funds from utilities to the 2023 street project. We have a motion to approve. First by Tim, second by Jeff. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right, no public hearing tonight. So general business, we'll do swing sets and then the 2 Eagle Center items. This was a great report by staff. Tony, was there anything you wanted to share on these install details?
Nothing really, I thought I had it in the consent agenda.
Yeah, so did I, and then it wasn't there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but it's fully funded. I mean, we've we've talked to quite a few people. Riley's done some really good research. We want something that's maintenance free. We want something that's ADA,
Better than 88, actually.
yeah, I mean, and it comes in a package and it's all done by the same person. The Bravo swing was purchased, through Landon, and I think the other ones were too, the other swings. So it's a nice location. There's nothing really else gonna happen back there, so it's kind of like, a good spot to put it, so.
Yeah, the only thing I had, Tony, was what we learned was in the Parks Commission, they selected a solid color, but it turns out that those are $10,000 more than what we were quoted, which is the color blend with black up on the screen is what comes with our quote, and you have a limited selection. And did they say not blue?
I thought when you were emailing on
Okay.
my way home, I thought you were talking about different design colors,
Okay.
not the mix.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's understandable. So we would, it's the 50-50 green and black, right?
That's what my question was, did they select a color or,
They prefer green,
okay,
Grass, yeah,
okay,
be nice.
so,
and we didn't want it hot, you know, we didn't want black or dark blue or dark colors,
Okay.
but that's,
so they've
not that that's.
selected green and black, as long as there's no major objections.
Yeah.
Look at that.
We are excited.
No, this is great. I really appreciate staff working on this and being patient, thinking through all the issues. The Brava swing is a big structure. And I think, no good deed goes unpunished, right? Wendy and Rachel, with their change maker, project, wanted this to be not on wood chips, because they find that that's actually not helpful for wheelchairs even, but certainly not for, push, assistance. So this is really, truly what vision was, and it's very nice. It's very, very nice. All right, we have a motion to approve. We need action. Yeah, we need to approve and then to go forward with the purchase.
I'll second.
First by Tim.
First by.
Oh, did I missed the first? Sorry. First by Dean, second by Tim. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. I'll be lovely. Oops. All right, so now, you wanna do the budget first?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have the National Eagle Center budget, which is a part of our development agreement that we look at it each year. I think you provided additional financial details in an email.
Did you have any more details to share?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I gave Michael a couple suggestions for 2027 on things I'd like to see, but this is late and we're gonna start getting on time now. So we'll, when they finish up their 2027 budget, which starts July 1st of this year, then we'll get a copy of it and be able to also look at their prior years.
The 27 budget is started, I've been working on it the last couple, 3 more days, so I'm
Great.
getting that done.
Okay.
So it's a priority.
Any questions? It's been a long time since I've looked at the Eagle Center budget, so we were board members, we looked at it quarterly.
Right, I don't have any questions right now, but I will meet with you one of these days.
Sure. It sounds
We'll sit
good.
down, and discuss.
I'd like to see the annual attendance figures, paid attendance figures included in the previous year report all the time, so people have an idea how many actual tourists are brought to town.
You guys have attendance tickets, I must have.
Yeah, we can pull that information. Yeah, I'm learning to navigate all true, which is the point of sale system, which has all that. So I will get, so you want a summary of, breakdown of attendees. Okay.
Anything further? You have a motion to approve their.
Move to approve.
Motion by John, second by Jean. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. All right, now we'll pop up that resolution. So Caroline was explaining this to Jeff. If you just wanna
Yeah.
share that thing.
So back in 2021, we were the fiscal agent for the first, I believe it was 4 million that the Eagle Center received to build the dock and redo the amphitheater. Now we are going to be the fiscal agent for the next 4 million. And all this says is that we're the legal sponsor, we have a legal authority to receive funds. They are not allowed to receive funds from the state of Minnesota. We haven't done any bribery, and then the description that's not in here is basically just the cost estimates for their phase 2, which is going to allow them to display the Preston Cook collection, make some improvements to their indoor amphitheater, shore up the buildings, address basic mechanical issues. And they have cost estimates that are for $4 million. So this kind of just clarifies, there's no other matching funds that they are committing to the project. They are requesting and have evidence that their cost estimates are just for the 100% cost of the project. So myself and Tyler will be submitting requests, so how it works is they give us a request for a draw, we request it and then pass it along, so we don't, the expenses don't come through, but we are the passing for the grant.
Any questions about that or about this, how this phase will wrap up? I'm gonna remain attentive and available, you know, kind of what for punishment because it's like rehabbing the building that we have, and so it's familiar to me. I'm appreciative of what the project is including now, which is some of the exterior improvements to the deterioration of the facades. And essentially, I mean, I would summarize it as new construction of building number 2, so coming in from the corner. And that new construction is really key for the future of those buildings' connections. So it's allowing for building 1, 2, 3, and 4, I think, to have appropriately, to have connection at appropriate elevation and to make sure that the structures are healthy and that the elevator can be used to access all levels that will be needed. So it's in no way, I never thought this was gonna be the case because I know how complex each one of these buildings kind of is on its own. It's in no way renovation of all those buildings, but it is a very, very good solution with one building of new construction to connect those historic buildings for the future. They don't, all the floors on the second level don't time out exactly. So these are buildings that were built unrelated to one another and now they'll be very well related to one another for future phased expansion. So I feel good about where the plan sits. Caroline was very helpful during the discussions. I think we would have all loved to see the board be really ambitious and try to get another $2-3 million in hand. But given the leadership change and, you know, the climate for giving, they know best. That board knows best what can be achieved at this stage, and I think the plan is good. Any other questions? So we need to approve this resolution, right? We have a motion to approve. For a second. We have a motion from Brian, second from Jeff. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Thank you, Michael. We always tell people this, you can stay for the rest of the meeting if it looks really interesting to you, but it's always a beautiful night when we meet for council. I'm sure you've had a long
I
week.
appreciate that, and thank you, for having me attend.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate having you here. So John alluded to this next one. This is the City of Wabasha Housing Trust Fund ordinance. This is a ordinance that will allow us to establish a fund. The fund doesn't have to have any money in it, but it will be a fund that would be a placeholder for any strategy that we might have to set aside funding for housing development in the City of Wabasha. Anything further you want to share from, this was
Chris is gonna-
Thanks, Chris.
Yes.
Other communities, smaller communities and what they've done.
And Chris, yeah, thanks for coming forward, because then we can capture you on the microphone and on YouTube and stuff, so.
Absolutely. So yes, the ordinance that you have in front of you, just a little background on that. A number of years ago, Minnesota State, by statute, set up the ability for communities to create their own housing trust funds. In 2023, Wabasha went through a housing study, and one of the recommendations that came out of the housing study was for the city of Wabasha to establish a local housing trust fund to help with projects that they would like to move forward, like the mayor was discussing. Kathy Enerson in her final meeting presented this to the Port Authority Board. There were some questions on language and things like that, and also reaching out to other communities that have established a trust fund like this, finding out their experiences with it, things like that. So over the last couple of months, reaching out to communities, smaller communities, to kind of find out what these trust funds were established for, what they were using them for, what their hopes for them were, what challenges they found, and then adjusting some of the language for our discussion at our last Port Authority meeting. Is the ordinance that you have before you. One of the questions that has come up, and as Caroline had mentioned, even with our current program, the state, actually through HUD, establishes income limits for projects that utilize certain programming funding. And so you see these numbers like 128 or 120% of area median income doesn't really mean anything to a lot of us. So one of the questions that came up was to put some definitions to those numbers. So in looking at the numbers for 2025, fiscal year 2025, which are the most recent numbers that are available, the state's median family income for a family of 4 is $116,900. So if you take that, and look at 120% of it, to give that a number, it's $140,280 is the income limit for a family of 4. The other side of that is 80% of median income, again, for the state of Minnesota for a family of 4, at 80% of median income, looking at $93,500 at 80% median income. So this is by no means Section 8 level restrictions on income. But also in doing some research today on that statute a little farther, those numbers aren't included in the statute to establish a trust fund. I think Kathy's purpose in including them in this language is to basically protect the city of Wabasha for the ability to say no to projects that come forward that probably don't need the assistance to get done. If somebody's coming and looking at building a home that they're gonna sell for $1 million, they probably shouldn't need the assistance from the city of Wabasha to get that project done. So I think that was the reason that language is included in this ordinance.
Another confusing thing for people is what are we doing here? Because we're not funding it. Another questions I've gotten is this gonna involve tax levy yet? You know, like, hey, we're struggling with the CIP, why are we giving incentives for housing? So what this does is I think it'll literally be a fund that Tyler sets up with $0 in it. And then we can then take advantage of programs that come out and just say, hey, we want this to go to Wabasha's trust fund, and then there's a list of other places that it could come from, so donations from businesses. Somebody says, hey, I want to bequeath funds so that we could see more housing projects in Wabasha, then we can put it in the fund. You could, if we had some money, you can invest it. It could come from the Port Authority, could come from fees, but right now, it just sets us up to take advantage of state funding.
Yeah, I think you're right. Initially, ultimately, when we apply for competitive grants like the Tier 2 funding that we were awarded before, when it's on a competitive basis, you never know who you're competing against. Having this set up allows us to be more prepared, hopefully score points in terms of preparation to go after that funding.
That's probably the most critical.
Right, yeah.
But if it's a competitive grant, say, and it requires a match, isn't that gonna put pressure on the city to come up with a match that we aren't ready for?
On the Tier 2 money that we just got, we didn't have to come up with a match. We said the match was gonna come from the developers themselves, so. You know, on that duplex we approved, I mean, she's putting in, I asked her, spell out what you're putting in, so. Theoretically, we'll probably say the match is coming from the applicants, but. I don't know.
And ultimately, you know, the programs that we apply for, we get to make the determination whether we're gonna apply for them. So if we're based on, if it's a program that's based on a match and we don't feel like we're in a position to be able to provide a match, we just wouldn't apply.
We've been there before. Any other questions? This is another accomplishment of the, housing study that seemed like a huge list of recommendations that came out of that study, but it's slowly, knocking down some of the really boring ones, but they're work. They take a lot of work and essentially they provide no reward yet, but it's good to be prepared.
This program does not give direct rental assistance to tenants.
No, this is,
Let me read what that says. Funding for rental assisted units shall be available to assist projects that benefit area workforce housing for moderate to low income. The 120% and rental. And another change we were gonna maybe suggest is instead of saying county, we use the state median incomes, just because that is slightly higher and still I think meets a definition of what we're trying to target. But that's kind of confusingly worded, but we could remove E if there's interest in that. But it's basically saying, like, the project we do, we may help workforce housing, which again, we just did, but not in the form of, it says we could pay for down payment assistance, but it does not really say, it doesn't say anywhere that we're helping someone pay their rent. Would you like, does someone wanna remove E or?
I think we want an ordinance that's permissive, and then we do what needs to be done in the future. We don't try to restrict ourselves now, not on what a future, let's say there was an emergency.
Yeah.
You know, this major emergency that jeopardized people's housing, you know, maybe at that point, a future council or Port Authority would wanna be able to help with rental assistance. We don't see that need now, but I don't know why we would exclude it, given that we don't know what we'll be responding to in 30 years.
And ultimately, I think that's another step in this process. This is the account that sets up the fund. That a program would be developed like our residential infill program that would have
It's
what
always-
that program is gonna do. And, you know, that would come through the approval process.
I do read, I'm sorry, it says provide down payment assistance, rental assistance, and home buyer counseling services. So in the future, we did determine that's what we want to do, is help people pay rent, if it would allow us to do that.
If we establish a program.
Yes.
Correct. Correct.
Any other questions?
Well, what are thoughts? Do you wanna go with the state median income? Is that a change you wanna make, just substitute county?
Yeah, I can give you that.
state?
That number real quick. For Wabasha County, 120% of area median income is 125,640 for a family of four, and like I mentioned, the state is 142.80 for a family of four, so it's a difference of 15,000.
I just wouldn't say with the county myself.
I'm not behind this at all, so what language you put in it is no consequence to me, so, you can tweak it how you want. Just personally, I just don't like being in a position of loaning money, being in that business. I know we do the small business loans out of Port, I think that's good. With the language in this, I just don't support it. I don't wanna be part of the program.
That's fine, and I'm not, I don't have a crystal ball, but my imagination suggests that any projects or programs that are developed would likely be out of the port in the future,
Yeah.
is my guess, so.
And that median income is a ton of money, so I'm not worried about it's all for low income. I mean, that median income plus 120%, that's a ton of money. It's more than like probably most of the town makes. But I still don't like any income restrictions at all when it comes to programs, so.
I don't like having established a fund that does not have a reliable funding source. That's.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve, Dean?
Yep.
Go second,
I'll make a second.
any further discussion?
I think, my only comment would be that with respect to the funding source, this is the placeholder for funding if we have that opportunity to get funding. It's not, it would, we don't have a place to put that per se at this point. So that's what this is for. It hasn't, it's not like we're now in the business of loaning money to low income.
There's only a
development
spend,
projects.
if we find a source of funds.
Exactly, but what this does is in the application, as an example, it shows that we're more prepared than the next competitor. So for that, I second the motion.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Like just two homes.
Two noes. Alright, now, there's some conversation to have on, and thank you, Chris, for looking at those
Thank you.
communities that, was it Ely and,
Ely, Hackensack, and Cloquet.
and I would imagine based on Minnesota Housing's advice, that we'll see a lot more communities establish the funding if they don't see where their funding's coming from either.
All right, so yeah, here's their capital trip. Who told you 50-50 chance of that cap?
This is,
Instinct.
this is my thoughts, what do you
Yeah.
think?
I don't know, I mean, we actually had a lot of time with Cap, what's his last name?
Yeah.
Aurora?
Yeah.
Sorry, no,
Yeah.
no, Bradley Peterson.
Bradley
Yeah,
Peterson, yeah.
Bradley Peterson, who's the kind of the main presenter for this coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, he was very generous with this time. I didn't get a sense that it was a negative, that they really bonding bill, but I think that just with the way the way there's control of power, it's just they're gonna have to negotiate up to the very last minute to see if bonding happens, so.
Yeah. So I think it's a good strategy that we assume we're not getting the bonding, and our main thing that we are trying to fund is as part of the project, we are going to be replacing Fourth Grant Boulevard as a right, at the end of the bridge. And we have, I just looked it up today, the water line under there is from 1900, and the sewer line, according to the data, is 1973. So we just try to explain to the legislatures, it would be very stupid of us to dig up that road and not replace what's underneath, and then there's a water leak in the future, and it's gonna cost us a ton of money to dig through it. So we'll be strategizing, on Friday, we've invited Dietrich and Mark from MnDOT back to just see all the funds that MnDOT has access to are really just to replace the road. It's not, to cover the cost of utilities. And just seeing the lengthy set of projects that the utilities has in the future, I'm not really comfortable replacing them unless without it and paying for it ourselves through borrowing, unless that's a last ditch effort. So it's along here that we'd like to replace those utility lines.
Can you zoom in a little bit more?
Right here. So I had it up on a computer, but now it's gone, and, nope, that's a different picture. But anyways, I was just looking at the lines today, it's right in here that, we'd like to replace those. So, we have a couple ideas. One would be kind of negotiating with the county, that will cover some county costs if they contribute towards this, and then I'm getting some additional data, because a grant opportunity came across my desk. But it goes back to the income factors, we may need to figure out if a utility line replacement benefits low to moderate income households to qualify for this grant. I have no idea the incomes of individuals living around this project, but if we create a threshold, we could potentially qualify for some funds through that. So I think that's what we're working on, is setting aside politics in the state, what else if we don't get those funds. But if the state funding comes through, we will focus it on placing the utilities. Everything else mostly is paid for except those utility replacements. The original thought was to add more utility lines in here to make it easier to develop in the future. I think we've walked back those expectations, and people will have to, if you wanna build housing or commercial, you'll have to connect into Allegheny or Fourth or Hiawatha. We won't have utilities in the middle of here like we originally were told, but our engineers are saying, I don't see that as an issue. So the main things that I wanted the input on today are, just to let you know that the port had a discussion and was asked for input on removal of Bridge Avenue, and they decided that yes, that's gonna go. That was based also on Tony's recommendations, that Bridge Avenue is in pretty bad condition, and I kind of thought maybe we save it, but just to say it's gonna be easier to remove Bridge Avenue, and that can become something else in the future, but it'll be gone. The other decision that the Port Authority made is there is not interest in retaining semi-truck parking there in the future. So it will be a while before we're gonna see development. They're not interested in continuing the use of free parking there. So if
I think
anybody,
it's worth
yeah.
mentioning that leaving
gravel, it may seem like, well, what's the big deal, leave gravel. Leaving that gravel counts against us for impervious surface, so it's not just a strategy of like, it's sort of not best use, we have to start thinking about that impervious surface requirement that we're gonna have to meet, so.
And I spoke on this before, in the past, I don't know when it was, I know I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, that, we had, as a city, we had sat down, we had determined that if that were to ever go, could we utilize the Army Reserve Center and so forth and so on. And it came down to the decision that we would allow parking of semis on Commerce Street. Commerce Street is owned by the American, it's nice and wide, it's fenced by the shoulders. And that's where, if somebody used to park their truck temporarily, they can only go there. We don't allow it now. So I think, you guys need to discuss that too.
Yeah, finding a new home for the semi trucks, you're saying?
Yeah,
What was some of the conversation around that?
they need to know where they can park the trucks.
Well, we don't have to provide free parking for anybody for
Right,
overnights.
but it helps to say, if you're gonna park your truck, this is where you're gonna do it on Commerce Street.
And Tim's last name, Arvidsson, who's the Stonebrook CEO, you know, he said, has the city thought about actually a paid parking facility there? And I said, we have not talked about that, I don't think that really fits the strategy, because again, we're gonna have to get impervious surface dealt with. But a private party may have space for semis to park.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna find that either. You know, back in the day, truckers were able to park their vehicles, their trucks up the cafe too. But private property,
Why don't we start looking at the core up by the cafe on the west side? Why don't we start using that land? I know it's the core, isn't it partly Wabasha's too, at some point?
It hasn't been turned over,
But sooner or later, we gotta start using it, otherwise what the hell is the point of having it up there?
right?
So even if you just put a gravel parking lot up by the cafe.
Right.
And utilize it for semi parking or whatever, or even
So, yeah,
transit parking for Mayo and buses and all that.
So some of our discussion that night, we couldn't come up with another community that provides free parking for semis. And then we started to ask, and it doesn't make sense to designate parking for multiple reasons, impervious surface, all that kind of stuff, in this new developed area. What we talked about, is there a private entity in town that might have access to a piece of land that could work, and there maybe is, so,
so that sounds like there's multiple options and that can be investigated.
I mean, if you don't address it, they're gonna park on the street, which is not where we want
right,
to
and
park.
I think so, what Dean said is if we did have a spot that we could say,
This is where you should be.
this is where you should be landing your truck, then so be it.
Tony, what are your thoughts on over by the Army Corps for truck parking?
I remember, Dean, I remember when we talked about that years ago, and I think that's a good idea. It's a truck route, it's wide. We can start there if it doesn't work, but, I like your idea too, by the truck stop. But I remember we tried to get possession of that, and they don't give it to us anymore. It goes to the highest bidder due to, they want money just like anybody else.
Real estate.
So maybe it's worth talking to them, you know, maybe.
We don't have a friendship.
Yeah, maybe a couple acres can be worked out, something, but it's not a bad idea.
Well, it just, I mean, it just sits there.
Yep.
Yeah, so part of the conversation that we've had, the board's had with respect to that core property, Army Corps property, is there's always a concern about, so it's the Corps' responsibility for any kind of cleanup. And because it's dredge material, they really don't know what that cleanup is, so they don't like the liability of actually utilizing this for something more than what it currently is. So they were all good about putting some grass and whatever they could on that one section, but the fact of the matter is, I don't know if we'll ever see anything get developed there.
Yeah.
And I think that's
They told me
that's,
they'd be interested in us operating another dog park over there or something. I'm like,
yeah, that's kind of what we
Tony
got.
just not, I mean, charge another dog park, it's like.
And you're right, I mean, I thought we were gonna get that.
Well, I don't say we get the whole thing, but geez, can we just just taking
Well, apparently not, at least.
500 feet of it, I mean, cause all we're talking about is parking some trucks or cars, but.
Do you-
I mean, cause you don't offer it, they're gonna park on the street.
Do you want us to ask in one of our upcoming meetings with
Yeah.
Eric and
I
see?
mean, I think the time is right to say, maybe this is a dumb question, but
What are we
we're,
gonna do?
we're confronted with this issue now because we've had this prime real estate utilized for free parking, that's not gonna be a plan moving forward, so, yeah. So as long as everybody understands, that's not the course, or it's not the port's priority to dedicate parking in this
Yeah.
space, even if it just meant leaving gravel there, because we actively want to get rid of that for impervious surface.
Then the number 2 question is, this is the MnDOT standard lighting, we can figure it out later, I don't think it'd hopefully be this tall.
You know, the height of the pole and the length of the arm would be determined based on the size.
Yeah,
of
but
our-
this is MnDOT standards, it's gray, our standards that we just put, along Pembroke are black, that's the basic difference. I understand our funding could pay for black, but then theoretically, if one went out and they have a lifespan of 30 years, possibly MnDOT wouldn't pay to replace it, but then they were saying, you know, Tony would have extras on hand anyways, if something goes out. For
What-
lighting.
They said we'll do a contract, it's where they do, they don't like taking care of, you know, they're trying to rid their systems of taking care of city stuff or whatever that's runs through the city, they give us a contract. We have to get our lights approved by them, we have to accept the contract, we're responsible for the wiring, the light structure, the lights, the maintenance. So whatever we put in there, we're gonna,
Ours to take care of.
yeah,
And what happens when they've all, you know, outlasted their useful life? Is there ever a point when we say, well, we don't care about our standards anymore, you can put your standards in?
that contract is, it's like down at the bridge, so our lights run up the bridge apron,
Uh-huh.
going towards Wisconsin. And it goes all the way up to where the blacktop starts, so it's quite a bit. I've had trouble with them this last year, and the MnDOT crew, the guys are nice, they dropped off a couple extra LED light heads that they have because they're switching to whatever the new thing is. He said you can use these, they know the roundabouts coming and different stuff, but, that contract was signed in '87 and there's no end to it. So,
So my goal is we're gonna have a big agreement at some point with MnDOT, and we'll obviously try to negotiate that they're responsible for as much as possible. The direction so far from the port is if it makes no difference, the preference is black, that's what our standards are. And if they say, well, we'll pay to replace gray for the next 80 years, then we'll probably wanna think about that, but.
I like black, but what's the difference in cost?
I think it's less about cost and more about responsibility.
Yeah, no,
So it's something that's a perpetual
Yeah,
responsibility, basically.
yeah,
they don't wanna worry about paint, you know, they do stainless or aluminum, it's, you know, it's probably look like crap at 30 years, but. You know, you don't have to repaint them every 15, 20 years.
So the other thing is, you know, our lighting standards, you know, I think we think about them as it relates to the downtown, that's where these standards for the larger Cobra style came from, is to sort of relate to our downtown. The interaction of a light pole at that height versus an interaction of a light pole at the height of the downtown street lights is very different. You know, I didn't even notice that the ones on Lawrence, they switched from the decorative pole to just a post and a aluminum fixture.
So the old ones that are the first section, those were on Pembroke and Main back in before the bridge.
Yep.
And then the ones down further, they were requested by, must have been the homeowners down there, so
But
that's
I mean,
under.
how many times I've walked on there and never realized that
Oh, yeah.
that standard shifts right there on that block, so.
And then we own the old ones,
Uh-huh.
Excel owns the new ones, I don't touch them, I just call them, so everything's, you kinda gotta watch when new developments and stuff are done, so the contract is worded the right way and.
What would you recommend? Being that you guys, public works have to deal with this, we get black.
I don't know, to me, it's not downtown, but I understand you wanna match, I'll be good, I'll be here as long as the paint's good. But no, I like black, I don't think the cost is gonna be,
But they know we have to maintain, right?
well, we're gonna have to maintain them no matter what.
yeah.
He's
So-
talking about the paint, the lights will have to maintain no matter what.
So what Dave is telling me, I just got notes, cause I called, they said in 30 years, MnDOT could replace them all with silver, but we could probably build them with black. And we would be responsible if one goes out, about a $5,000 worth of cost to replace them if it's in stock, but we're understanding we would have to do that anyways. But would we have to replace, are we responsible in 30 years to replace them all? We'll try to negotiate that they have to replace them all, whatever their standard is in 30 years.
Here's why I prefer black. When we built that, bridge going over the railroad tracks, the city got to choose the type of light that goes up there. And it's kind of blackish, historical type stuff. So it would kind of blend in with that, but,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know,
Yeah, and that's why the standards, I was on that standards committee, it's like, well, why would we want black to match our downtown as we replace? This is just a lot of lights on what will not officially be our road with money that is not managed by this current council or this current public works director. I'm just trying to think about, future decision makers, but we'll see what we can negotiate too.
The only trouble I've had is, the light heads up there now, well, it used to be bulbs, now it's the light head, because they're LED, and they're, a few $100, I think they're probably approaching $600-700 with the new ones. If a light pole gets damaged, that's all insurance.
Okay.
So either it's a windstorm, or, they're all covered by insurance, it's either somebody hit it, that's their private.
Right.
So I wouldn't.
And the other thing that kind of made me not as concerned about whether these fixtures are black or aluminum is that, whatever development occurs there, they're probably gonna have their own like standards in terms of making their property appealing, whether it's housing or commercial. So whether they're gonna follow our black rule or not, we don't know.
no, Tim, we put a condition on that, property, because we basically did that
That's what
in,
we talked about as future design standards for.
we basically did that in the alleyway, where I live, in front of the Eagle. When, and we,
We have a lighting standard, yeah, at this point.
I mean, it's not gonna cost us extra, if I right here.
Not an
For
issue.
the, we're still working into the grind and things, so that's the engineer. It's just them, MnDOT approving
Exactly.
whatever we select and try to match up with what we have downtown on Bridge Avenue. Trying to get it down there, because I'm thinking that I thought their standard was 40, it's gotta be at least 40 feet. And so there's some work to be done yet on that.
We'll learn more. But it sounds like council doesn't have a very strong opinion, but we'd like black if it's workable.
Yeah, whatever.
We'd like to meet our standards if it's workable, and we think that we can maintain it.
And then the last question for discussion that we were asked for council input on is, do we want a sidewalk focus and hybrid trail sidewalk or a trail focused option? So I included a couple of attachments, so option and then Dean, I'll let you go first and I'll pop up in your images as present this, but just real quick, this is the red is where sidewalks would be, and green, oh, you can't see it, okay. Can everybody see it on their computer, that attachment?
You can't bring it up on.
Yeah, hold on, yeah, got it. Sorry. Okay, hopefully this will work. Okay, so this is option one was green is the 10-inch wide trail, the red is the walk. Again, we understand that we have to plow and clear whatever we build, but they cover the cost to build it out. And then an optional sidewalk along the bridge on Fourth Grant Boulevard. And then this is mostly what it's currently designed at is basically trails on both sides instead of sidewalk. Then I will bring up your suggestions, Dean. Dean, was there one option that you preferred, or?
I don't, it doesn't matter either way.
Okay,
I mean, asphalt, concrete, I don't care.
okay,
So I looked at all this and I thought, first question is, are we getting rid of the one along Allegheny, the new one?
no,
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 Okay.
so that would be a complete loop around.
Are we getting rid of the one along Bridge Avenue or Grant Boulevard up there?
no.
No,
Because, well, then we're keeping that one on Grant Boulevard and we're putting a bike path on.
That was part of the question, it's like.
That's fine.
we wanna keep this one as part of the question. It will have a trail on this side do we wanna keep this yellow sidewalk here, is a question for discussion today.
And I looked at that,
It's already
Why
there.
would you take it out if it's already there?
Cause it makes the bridge wider too, so it's costing us a little bit more money to add another 20 foot of concrete.
but here's my concern about removing that is, you remove that, now you're forcing people to cross
Cross
the
the
road
street.
once again,
Yeah.
up on Church Avenue, to go across into Ikes Park, to get back on the sidewalk, to go up to the west side.
That was my initial feeling too. And then,
So that's one of my concerns.
Okay, so,
Another concern is, let's see here, down by Super Value there, on the corner of, the ambulance barn. We currently don't have a sidewalk running down to Fourth Street there. There's a lot of foot traffic there, and I think we should look at maybe adding one there. You know, we don't have to.
front of the ambulance and fire,
Alongside it, yeah. So from Hiawatha to Fourth Street. Or Eighth Street, I'm sorry,
okay,
Hiawatha to Eighth
Yeah,
Street,
between the grocery store and.
yeah. And I don't know if that's feasible to do or not, but I just wanna toss that out there. Let's see here, so I got that. Yeah, so that's basically it for that page. Go
what was
ahead.
your note here, this yellow, you wanted to add the sidewalk? Right here, this says add a sidewalk from Ridge Avenue to the sidewalk coming off the interstate bridge.
Yeah, that's,
Runs in front of 318 and 328 Fourth Street.
yeah, that's in the next image,
Okay,
image number 2, I think. Okay, this is a different one, but, here again, it's in the park plan to eventually put a path through Banks Park, to finish that loop. So if you go from Banks Park across, and then you come to, where the boat launch is, and there's a sidewalk there on Third Street, that would finish that loop. So maybe we should look at that. The next one, this is the one that she's talking about. So a lot of you guys probably don't realize there's a sidewalk coming right along the bridge, that goes behind the United Church of Christ. And it comes to a dead end, and then you have to cross, the roadway there. That's exactly where that turn roundabout's gonna be, and it's a dangerous spot to cross, because you're hoping that you have to listen for the traffic coming off the bridge, then you make a run for it. Because anybody on the bridge that, doesn't stop, they're gonna hit you. Like I said, comes to a dead end, so why not just extend that to, Bridge Avenue, the old Abbott property there. Get rid of that crossing and put the crossing, on that corner. You guys understand?
Yep.
I guess what I'm wondering, is that already in the plan? I think it was like,
does the roundabout, does the trail around that corner of the roundabout take care of that, Dean, the way it's drawn
Well,
with the green
when I
marker
looked at
over
it-
the actual plan?
There's like a red dot there, but I'm not, wasn't sure what that meant. Or a splash or something.
It says optional. The red dots is optional.
Well, it said red is optional, but then there's dashes there, so.
Or red
But
dots.
anyway, I just want to point that out to council. So,
I think the plan is that, yeah, there would be a trail actually there, or a sidewalk, and you could cross through the roundabout to get through. So I think that's included, and we're looking for comments and other feelings from council if we wanna keep sidewalk on both sides. And, I think it was felt by the engineers that not doing only trail, doing some of this hybrid, some sidewalk would be easier to maintain long-term, that trails are a lot to maintain.
And that was my question, is that on the Hiawatha side of the part where it says trail or walk, why wouldn't we have a little bit of trail there? Cause it's a sidewalk all the way around.
Yeah.
The way I
It's sidewalk all the way.
Yeah, I like the first design, this is my thinking. is wherever it said walk is where we either have businesses or will be housing. And where we had a trail, which would be much more kind of around.
Connected to the trail system.
Yes, yeah. So that's why I think the sidewalk on Grant should stay. I mean, I don't know why we take it out. Even bend it around where it currently exists right along the bridge going towards the town. Why would you take it out? My question is if you're in that corner, you know, where Abbott's was, you're gonna have to cross the road no matter what. So either you cross it on by the roundabout or you cross it up by a bridge, whatever you do. So where do we want them to cross is really what we get to, but that trail right where those houses are on the bottom, I would make that sidewalk, because it's currently a sidewalk, why would we make a trail? With housing there.
Right.
So that's my theory of why we have walk versus trail,
So
but
you want
I
this one down here to be,
well, it would be a sidewalk.
Sidewalk instead of
currently.
trail?
Yeah.
okay,
So really, the only trail would be the loop that faces towards the slough of
Right.
water.
That connects to
That's
the
my
trail
thinking on it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's how Tim described it, and then he said, I'll just quick mark it up and you can present it to council, so I thought that's what it would look like, basically green on that side of the roundabout, red on this side of
But
the
my
roundabout.
question really has, where is the county at replacing those two culverts? The one on Grant, Hiawatha, and the one on Grant,
Both replaced in this.
so,
during this project, they're both getting
yeah,
replaced?
so that's where we wanna make the trade in funds potentially is we have enough money to replace their bridges with what we've received from our grants. We wanna say to the county, we'll cover your bridge replacement, but we want funds to replace our utilities, so.
And like Tony pointed out, if we keep the sidewalk and add trail, that is a little bit more width of the box culvert, but if we're saying that we're providing the funds, we should probably.
And I truly could care on Grant, if we had a trail on one side and sidewalk on the other, that doesn't bother me. It just prevents people from crossing over if they don't want to, but that was my thinking on the walk versus trail.
So trails are blacktop and sidewalks are concrete
And 10 feet for trails and 6 feet wide for.
I believe so.
but I thought patching trails would be easier than fixing sidewalks.
But the sidewalks will last you a
Yeah.
hundred years.
Alright.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
But some of them, they have sidewalk, bike path, sidewalk, and it's like, I gotta follow one or the other here. Yeah, I can't do
I
part
would
of
just
it.
be consistent, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta, whatever it is. So like if you do like you say, the trail on the sluice side and sidewalks on
Yep.
the rest of it makes some sense.
Keep everything on sidewalk, it's all the same, it's
It's all the
uniform.
same, it's part of town.
Doesn't have anything to do with MRT at all, or?
No, but if you ask me, that's why that green on that side, on the sluice side makes sense, because you connect on the bike path that goes over the
Yeah.
bridge of the marina, and then you can access that MRT.
We talked
So-
about people doing the loop.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of.
I
how
think
long
People
is it?
literally call it the loop, yeah.
I think we can relatively inexpensively add sidewalk and be part of the project. I'm not so sure about the Isaac Walton.
I wondered about that just from the, like the environmental, like what's
Yeah.
the area that is deemed reviewed for this project, are we out of that area? Cause it did go up to Malone, they were gonna be investigating kind of the,
I was just thinking like, the city would just pay for that
Figure that out.
component, and just separate it out from our federal grants, which were really, well, maybe you could get it to be included on the ambulance side, but.
Some projects in the past that we've done, you know, like, main bike path from free, up to, Fifth Grand. We were only gonna go to Third Street on that, but the contractor said, hey, you know, we're here, we'll give you a deal. So we went all the way up to Sixth Street, we made that decision that day. So if
it might be an efficient time to do
it
some.
might be the time to do it, it might not,
Economy scale.
just throw it out
So
there.
maybe just gotta be ready for it if we can do it.
Yeah.
So we have grants from MnDOT for this?
Yeah, we got one MnDOT grant, and then informally, we understand if we have a gap, hopefully they're gonna be willing to fill that gap. But again, their funds really can't pay for utility costs, but it can cover the roadway.
In the end, I mean, you guys can, you know, decide whatever you come to, but the sidewalk on Grant Boulevard is like my worst sidewalk ever because we plow everything on the sidewalk.
Right.
And then we gotta try and get it off, and it's, you know, half the width of Grant, so I thought about the fish, you know, people that fish, well, they can fish on the other side,
Right,
it's the same thing, or we got the dock now for fishing.
but if we had
It's part-
that bike path on the west side, you wouldn't have to plow that sidewalk. Go and plow it.
Well, I'm gonna, instead of having one sidewalk getting snow on it, now I'm gonna have two.
Right,
With
what
the
I'm
bike
saying
path.
is, don't follow the existing bike path or sidewalk, just follow the new one.
I gotta keep them both clean,
No,
if there's two, you know what I'm.
Yeah.
I mean, it is tough, I see what.
It's the rules we make everybody else play by.
Yeah, cause that's the first thing, you know, the city,
Yeah.
doing it, why,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
So I think, personally, I think it's worth a little headache for you. Sorry to say that, but.
And we're trying to reduce costs as much as possible because we're already with the utilities and, you know, the cleanup costs being a little bit more, but that's my 2 cents.
Again, I think I'm hearing general consensus, trails make sense on one side of the highway, sidewalks make sense on the other. There's some connections that maybe could be made if there's an economy of scale and continue to have sidewalks in front of residences versus trails, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then to address the cost issue, they're continuing to refine these things, and yeah, we might be in a situation where we're gonna have to look at what gets cut. Or I think, again, we're having a conversation on Friday, and a lot of the things, they've got preliminary estimates, but they're continuing to refine also.
Ambulance contributions update, and there's a. Oh, Ryan, is Ryan still on?
Yep, I just wanted to note that there's a meeting at the city of Kellogg. They're discussing how they can use perhaps their utility funds. A quick update, we have no ability to move forward that local sales tax option. That was a conclusion from the Capitol. And then I applied for a congressional allocation for the ambulance only. And if it looks favorable, we're making it through committees. I like to reconvene our ad hoc group because we spent a lot of time discussing the combined building approach, and that was what I approved, but we're just not we're not able to find that amount of funds. So I wanna just talk a little bit, if it's just the ambulance, what does that look like in ad hoc, and then I'll go up. But I feel like we spend time on that if we progress with the congressional allocation.
And our meeting with Redfin Cities tomorrow.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, and Brian's maybe coming to that, or not, or?
No, I
Okay,
wasn't.
okay, Jeff is gonna be there and Emily, okay. So yeah, that's unfortunate, we were not able to get legislative sponsorship for that local option sales tax, we'll try to do that next year. And is anybody, Jane Blanner from the ambulance commission said she would be able to attend the Kellogg meeting on Wednesday, is anybody else able to attend, Jeff? Okay. I gave Jane a few talking points, here's what we requested, blah, 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 and I think what we put in the talking point is the council is no longer accepting less than the full requested amount. So, and we're looking for a solid commitment for 2027 for that, so.
What's our ask? What's our ask?
I'll email it to you, but it's about $14,000, and this year they've committed to 3,000. So, and I look back and Brian and I presented November of 2023. And then supposedly 10 years ago, Jessica remembers that we asked them for funds maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, Chad had gone on at the time and talked about it, and I know that there was like 6,000 put aside in the budget item for it. But then it just never got used, and then they just put it back in the budget.
Yeah. Right.
Long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
One last thing on that, I was thinking, when it comes to budget time, maybe we talk to Flaherty and Hood and discuss putting like 10 or 20,000 in legal in the budget to set up that taxing district. So find out what they think it would cost, and then we can just work it into our budget conversation if we want to move forward with that.
Sure, unfortunately, nobody else wants to do it. We find ourselves saying, come on already.
This is the per cap that everyone actually follows through, which is a big if, and it's nodding online with me. Is the easiest, least, but this 2027 time will tell, so I'm fine with, we can set aside money if we have to work with an attorney, because the people are not voluntarily sending us the checks
Yeah,
for
it
the
would,
full amounts.
yeah, because it would
Yeah.
take money, legal money
Yeah,
to set that up.
yeah.
So it'd be something we'd have to budget for if we were to do it.
And that would be able to include capital costs too,
Yeah.
instead of.
Yeah.
All right, we have a lot of really generous donations.
Oh,
You want
we
to
had
take server?
the server,
Oh,
and Mike,
sorry.
Mike is here. Mike, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, I told you 7 o'clock, it's 7:20.
I'm just
So,
getting work done.
Dean asked us some really good questions about our server. So currently, our server houses, all of the city files, and, also does something so that we can control what employees have access to what. And we, were asked by Dean and Scott Lean if we had considered just a cloud-based option that comes with our current Microsoft license. And what Mike has explained is we have two problems, is one, the cloud that you have access with your standard Microsoft license would not allow us to do that controlled access for everybody's computers. So right now, you know, it's tracking whose computer has what and what they can download. And if Mike said that if we just had the standard free license, then employees could just download whatever they want and we wouldn't have that control. To do that cloud-based server control, we determined it would be more expensive than just purchasing a server, which is a more basic technology. And the other issue that we have is the server that houses all of our financial information cannot go to the cloud, right, Mike?
The server is hosted for files, but the core software Banyan needs to be on premise, or it has to go into a fairly expensive cloud environment.
Okay.
The cloud environment for Banyan, the ROI on that just for Banyan would probably be 1.5 years if you bought the server.
So when he was saying 1 year to 2.5 years, that we pay off the server and then we continue to pay for the cloud, so.
Yep.
Dean, did you have further questions or?
No,
things in consideration?
He was very good at getting back and stuff. And basically, the companion applications that we use that are preventing us from utilizing the full cloud. Banyan, parent company from Twin Cities.
Yeah.
And they service many cities, and their applications are not cloud-based. They probably will never be cloud-based. And the only way to get around that is to go to somebody else, which there really isn't many people out there, or many outfits out there, so, is that right? Yeah.
There's
So,
plenty of outfits,
Yeah,
when
that's
I've encouraged staff, that was my first thing, I'm like, can we get a new financial software, cause it constantly breaks down. It'd be very expensive for us to find, so we live with an imperfect system that breaks down, but it's very, very cheap for all of us. So switching to financial cloud-based software, when we've gotten it quoted, how was it gonna be, I think, we just didn't think it would be, the way our budgets are every year, we didn't think it would be
I would-
really.
I mean, the payroll portion of one was like over 100,000, wasn't it?
It was insane.
yeah, I would just recommend that as we apply for the license for these applications, that we continue to look, in 2 years, whatever whenever they come up, that we continue to look at cloud-based services. Because there has to be, I mean, there's services out there that are less than 100,000. I could find it myself, but, you know, it's just a matter of, when they come up for renewal, that we look at and try to transition that way. And as far as, protection wise, I think you got that pretty much covered. As far as the server goes, I was a little concerned about where you're using regular hard drives, SATA drives. You know, but he explained that the SSD drives are tremendously expensive now. And that's why they went that direction. So basically security and location was my concern. Now, I'm not gonna tell you where the server is.
I was gonna say, we don't even know where the closet is.
But, anyway, it's gonna be $10,000 and it's gonna be expensive. And,
But I have a quick question, our server backs up off-site,
Yes.
like the content? Okay.
Well, we have two. We're backing up the files are located at your original AD server is located at HPC in their data center.
Okay,
And that's the old one running some really old software and is very limited in services. And then we have a workstation acting as a peer server at City Hall with the Banyan software on it. We do daily backups on both of those devices.
okay, good. I just lived through the ransomware at Winona County, which was months of downtime, so it's no joke.
Can I ask you a question? So one company provided a quote for $10,771 and another company had $48,000. Why is one 4 times greater than the
I didn't-
other?
I'm too cheap.
No,
No, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
I didn't
I don't
say
know.
that.
One quote, and then I asked Tyler to use that new source well, so I don't know, do you wanna comment on the quotes you got? Did you get other
I
quotes?
sent them the exact same description that Mike gave us, and that's what it came back as, and they go through the source well too, so. I don't know why they came back much higher, if they just don't know.
I'll move to approve the onsite student server quote.
We have a first, we have a second.
Oh, just a second.
We have a first from Tim, second from Jean. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed say no. Good to have these conversations, so we know it's back up. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you.
And now to the donations. We don't have them all in. Okay. To the library, $250 from $500 gift from Dylan Gloria Hager, $2,500 from Grant Van Shoot. To the fireworks, $1,020 from the VFW Post 486 from their meat raffle. To the ambulance, $100 from Betty Fisher, and a number of generous donations in memory of Joe Dick for the fire department. Do you have a motion to accept the donations?
second.
We have a first from Tim, second from Jeff. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. All right, and then we are reminded that, filing deadlines are coming up, May 21st through June 2nd, on filing dates for city offices, and that's a $5 fee. We do that in person. Oh, that's it.
So just to clarify, you're up and not
No problem.
renewing,
No.
okay, so, and then.
What if we don't accept that?
You're up, okay,
Watch out, you never leave.
okay, alright. Is that?
Tim's
I had that problem with
very-
the planning commission.
Tim's gonna be very hard to use.
So-
If you can think of anybody who would be good to be urged to run for planning,
You're a
that's an
Yeah,
important role.
John's
so.
up, I believe.
John's up.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
How long you been on planning for, like, how long years?
Probably
Yeah.
14 to 12, I think, something like that.
12 or 14.
Yeah, I lived through the frac sand. one.
Been there.
I was out there with you when we did that.
Yeah, I know.
You've been on planning, you've been on planning, you've been on planning, you've been on planning. You've been on planning, okay, well, you know the job, so urge people you think would be good.
Gene, it's a great job. It's phenomenal.
I I mean, you're very well supported by staff, so it's.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like, make up your answers, but, all right, anybody else want to ask us, otherwise entertain a motion to adjourn?
The Thursday morning. Truth and taxation,
Oh,
I gotta be there.
We're gonna be there.
and Dean, you're gonna be there.
okay, good,
That's here.
I'll move to adjourn.
thank you, Tim, for a second.
Second.
I'll second.
I have 2 seconds, Gina.